What is happening, Mark Barenaked Willie? How are you today, my friend?
Happy Beers Friday live to you, Dave Cooper.
Man, oh man, the weeks are flying by, but we're having a great time. Anyhow, dude, where you at right now?
Yeah, I'm on Dave Cooper Live. Where you at?
I'm on Dave Cooper Live as well. We're going to be talking about water damage today. And we're going to be talking about a dad who I thought his son was going to probably kill him by the time he was done with his new house. However, it all worked out wonderfully in the end. This is going to be a great show.
This is going to be great. I could tell you that Mark and I spoke for hours on end on Saturday, and neither one of us wanted to hang up the phone. Where's everyone joining us today from Dave?
Well, listen, we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. So get your tweets on out there. And if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you're wrong. You need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, but do it after the show. And if you're not following Mark Barenaked Willie and all of his adventures, you should be following Barenaked Willie everywhere he goes and everything he does. Outside of that, life is good. It is Friday. Hockey season's in full swing with the kids, and we're bracing for our first winter in a couple years.
Your first winter in a couple years, and you're not on a set of tires. How about that?
We are not on a set of tires. We definitely are not. We are in the new studio, which we're still building on as we show every once in a while here. This is where we're coming live to you from. You see, I got one last pretzel left to eat. That was my lunch right there on the desk. My wife's probably cringing right now. But this is it. Here we are. So life moves on as we know it. So, Mark, what do we got going on today?
I'm ready, Dave. I'm ready. H2O, right? We have people that are building inspectors on the show for a long time.
That's right.
Mark is a building consultant. There's a difference. We know that we want water in our mugs.
That's right.
We know that we want water in our coffee cups. Where we don't want water, we don't want water. And Mother Nature doesn't care. Dave, please welcome Mark Parlee to the show.
What is happening, Mark? How are you? Welcome to BS Friday. Great to have you on today.
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to this. I got 152 slides, and I have a friend who tells me add 3 more, and we'll call it a motion picture.
There it is. There it is. Well, Mark, you're in for a treat because Dave has a question for you, and you're not prepared for this, but I am. So get ready.
All right, Mark, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we will have one of your family members on. In fact, I think your son would be a good candidate, or even your daughter-in-law. She was real happy that she didn't get an upgrade, but she got an upgrade that she didn't want. I watched this episode, so you better be honest with us, or it could get quite embarrassing for you quick, but you only have 2 minutes to do it. Go for it. Show's yours.
Anybody who hasn't watched the episode should watch it. It's 28 minutes of pure, exciting pleasure. I'll start with the birth. I think when I was born, the doctor slapped my mom. That's what I'm told. I was 19. I'll fast forward clear to when I started construction, 1976. I was 19 years old, and I've been in it for 46 years. I saw that Mark had it on, but only 43 years. That's old information. It's 46 years. This year, I arrived this year at my long-awaited goal of Medicare. I dropped all the other crap insurances. Now I have something affordable, and it does a little better job. It's funny, as you get older, your goals change. So when I was about 63, I was looking forward to 65. Just hit it. I've been in construction all my life. I tried to stay awake and learn, and that's benefited me here in the last few years as I started doing consulting. I work for a lot of big builders and small builders alike. When they have problems, I get a call and I go and try to resolve their issues. I do that for homeowners as well. That's about it.
Oh, yeah, that's nothing. That's just, simple life in the day of Mark for sure. All right, Mark. So I watched your episode, and I have to tell you, it was actually very, not only entertaining, but educational. And I think I think it's entertaining because it was your son and your daughter-in-law who had to bear the wrath of all of your knowledge because they were too busy when they bought their house to listen to you in the beginning. And then they ended up having all kinds of problems. So I studied this video and watched it. And I sat there and I said, you know, I didn't know if they were going to take an axe to you by the end of it or not, but that's not what happened. But you have to watch it to find out.
I still get cookies when I go.
You do get cookies.
Yeah.
You do for your energy, right?
That's right.
That's right. That's right. So,
well, we're in for a treat today. After last week's show with Lloyd, Mark said to me, you know what? 141 slides is not enough. I'm going to do more. So, Mark, whenever you're ready, I'm going to hit the timer. And we're gonna ask everyone to put their tray tables up, put your seats in the full upright position, put on your crash helmets, and get ready for the Mark Parlee experience.
There you go.
It is.
Yep, we got about 40 minutes. Go for it.
Okay, good. 40 minutes, 160 slides. That's 4 per minute. And right away,
you just lost 20 seconds.
There we go. Here we go. Okay, I'm taking over. You know what, guys? This is a bad deal because my slides are not progressing at all.
Well, maybe you just got to refresh it a little bit. If not, we can reload. There it is. It's working now.
Okay.
You're on it.
Here's what we're going to do. Inspecting the exterior envelope, building envelope enclosure, defined waterproofing principles. Exterior envelope enclosure inspections. Various claddings. Telltale signs of a job gone wrong. You look at my slides. I'm not going to have to tell you where those are. You can see it in the pictures. Telltale signs of a job gone wrong. Adhered masonry veneer. The biggest problem we have facing us in our construction today. Critical installation details. Is this stucco? I'll give you the answer. Yes, it is. Does anyone do it correctly? Not many. How do you know? Well, you need to inspect. Inspecting the exterior envelope, we need to be able to identify incorrect and missing application details that can and will lead to moisture intrusion and degradation of the structure. Nobody wants a degraded structure. We should have a good understanding of manufacturer's installation requirements and building code requirements for exterior cladding. We can learn to be the expert, or we need to know when to call an expert. This will give the owner the most thorough inspection and reduce the potential liability of you, the builder or design professional. Remember that. Learn to call the expert. The combination of roofing, waterproofing, damp proofing, flashing, and diverter systems in combination with all exterior facade elements acting cohesively as a complete barrier to the natural forces and elements, particularly water and weather intrusion. These systems envelope a building or structure from top to bottom, from below grade to the roof. The entire building exterior skin must be enveloped to prevent water infiltration. It is important to recognize that every component used in the envelope or building skin must be waterproof. 90% is not good enough. There's no test here, but that's an answer to my sessions where you do get tested. Waterproofing principles. The first principle, the 90% 1% principle. 90% of all water intrusion problems occur within 1% of the total building exterior surface area. Get that. This 1% contains determination and transition detailing. This all too frequently leads to breaches and a complete failure of the effectiveness of the building envelope and is the main cause of all waterproofing problems. The second principle is the 99% principle. Approximately 99% of waterproofing leaks are attributable to causes other than material or system failures. Reasons typically involved in failures include human installation errors, the wrong system being specified for in-place services requirements. An example would be sealant failures. The wrong primer or no primer being used. How many of you even know there was a primer for sealants? Not many. Inadequate preparatory work, cleaning, primers, frost removal. That's all a sealant joint. Very seldom do people clean them properly. Incompatible materials being transitioned together and insufficient material being applied.
Hey, Mark, when
Yeah.
you say incompatible materials, does that also count for incompatible tradespeople that don't work together?
It does. It does. That's a good point.
Got another one, Dave.
Determine what type of claddings are installed. What are the unique characteristics of the claddings installed on this structure? How do these various claddings interface with one another? Review and familiarize yourself with the installation guidelines. It's bad when I give you reading lessons when you're on the stand. You should have read up before. This is a case review. This is one of my cases. The meeting. Here I'm kind of looking at the people, watching them wonder. The briefing. I'm giving a little bit of a briefing before we go on into our inspections. The attorneys. They're doing what they usually do. Check their notes, drink their coffee. The talk. I hope none of my attorney buddies have heard that. The talk. These are the owners, and I'm giving them a little bit of a talk of what we're going to do. The discovery, sort of. Everybody's looking right there, wondering why, what we're looking at. I don't have a picture of that. Here's the overview of it. You can see the areas that are still wet after a rain. That remains wet after everything else is dried off is drying out, not drying off. The damage.
Oh.
The damage. Let's go back.
Oh.
The damage. This is typical. Close up, structural damage, various claddings. I'm moving fast, guys. We have fiber cement, vinyl and steel, wood composites such as LP SmartSide, real wood, brick and full dimension stone, AMSV, adhered manufactured stone veneer, or ASV, a stone that's the same thing. EIFS. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a lesson here. It's not EIFS, but EIFS. Take a look at where the I is and sound it out. Now, when I talk to any of you again, please don't come up and call it EIFS. DEFS, direct applied exterior finish system. Same as EIFS, except there's no insulation. Many of these have similar but unique characteristics. Read the installation instructions frequently. This is James Hardy. Plenty of information for them. They give you to put it on. This is an overview of what is inspected. We have a clearance issue here. Should be 2 inches in a zone 5 and 1 inch in a zone 10. When you put it down tight to the roof, this is what you're going to get. This is freeze, spall, thawing. You know.
What's your clearance, Clarence?
Spalling. There we go. And here at the joints, they still allow you to caulk the joints, but when you caulk a joint right here, you're only putting 1/8 of an inch of material in. When the siding moves 1/8 inch, that's 100% joint movement. Most polyurethanes will only operate in a 30% joint movement. You'll have capillary action and a capillary draw in those narrower cracks. It wets the material, and then during the freezing weather, it starts spalling the material.
Hey, Mark, I have a question about that
Yes.
because I've installed this material on furring strips. So there's an airspace behind it. In
So
that
the rain screen principle, yes.
Yes. In that application, I have not caulked that joint. I did when I cut the joint, I did paint the cut edge, but I did not caulk it because I was afraid that I'd be trapping moisture in. Did I help myself or did I hurt the building?
I would not caulk it. You put a metal flashing or a joint flashing behind it now, but I'm just pointing out that they still allow that. It's not a good. Here.
Dave was hitting golf balls. That's what I see.
Impact damage, 200 feet from the tee. Water intrusion behind siding brings extractions to the surface and supports fungal growth. This is a visual sign of a bigger problem. We have nice little mushrooms growing there. If they were morels, we'd harvest them and sell them at high V, but they're not. Clearance issues. 6-inch minimum clearance from grade. A lot of people get this wrong. Here's a beautiful, the siding is rattling and they wonder why. It's not attached very well. I call this one stud finder. I'll let it play its own. Here's where it's supposed to be. You're supposed to nail fiber cement 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch down from the top of the board. Does that look like 1 inch?
That looks like 1/8 of an inch, depending on your terrible tape measure.
Yeah. I got ahead of myself here. I wanted to highlight that so you could see it. Yes.
I think this is a remarkable tool. Dave and I need to get one of those.
Yeah, it is nice. Just a little presentation thing. $99 at Best Buy. Did you hear that, Best Buy? I'll take my commission.
That's right.
Kick-out diverter, flashing, required by both industry standards and the building's code. I seldom see them, or used to. Now, we're seeing a lot more of them in my area. This is hardy plank. This is fiber cement board. It delaminates when it gets wet behind it. Here's a good illustration of how to put a kick-out flashing in. You integrate it in with the steps. Here's one after it's done. Notice the clearance off of the roof with the trim. That's a piece of LP Smart Side trim, 1 inch clearance from the roof shingles.
And it also looks better, right? I mean, who cares about looks? Everyone.
Yeah.
But function, everyone.
Function, yeah, it prevents a lot of damage. Kickouts are not required to be pre-molded, but pre-molded really are the best configuration. Here's a kickout in a adhered stone job. This does not meet code or recommendation by James Hardy. It is flashed to where it keeps the water from going behind the siding, but it does not meet the minimum requirements. This is not a proper kickout.
No.
This is not a proper kickout. This is a non-conforming kickout. It will cause problems eventually, as the water from the roof will get behind the siding here and then can't get back out because it's sealed in.
Yeah, essentially what they did is created a bigger problem.
Yes, they did. This is just plain dumb. Very typical. You don't pour your stoop over your siding. Another dumb one. And another dumb one. This does not meet. You can't put your deck on over the face of the siding. You can. We see it all day long, but you're not supposed to. It's easy to find diagrams that show you how you're supposed to do things. Here's a diagram on how you should flash a deck ledger. Vinyl and steel siding. They are rain screens. They're the first deflection against airborne moisture, not waterproof by any stretch of the imagination. The weather-resistant barrier flashing detailing is very important. If you don't have that on, that's your final line of defense. Installation details. There's plenty of installation details. Water-resistive barrier, vinyl and steel sidings. Vinyl and steel sidings are the exterior claddings. I just went through that. It is supposed to be with a weather-resistant barrier. In 2000, when the IRC came out, and 2003, they did not require a weather-resistant barrier behind vinyl or steel or aluminum. You can see it right here. In the no. Sheeting paper required, no. Horizontal aluminum. Steel, no. Vinyl siding, no. In the 2003, same thing. 2006, they finally got it right. Notice their yeses in these categories. 2012, yes. And so forth.
I vouch for that, right? This is when we hold up the guilty hand.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I didn't put a WRB back then either.
It was required prior to the 2000 code in the UBC, clear back to the 1982 UBC. It was required, but people just don't bother reading the instructions or the code. I got a call. They have a leak. This leak was leaking in the ceiling down here in this room. I open up the siding and what do I see? You didn't flash properly. You didn't counter flash your flashing. The flashing is on the front face of the WRB, so the water's just going to go right down in. Left a real nice stain everywhere this happened.
It's almost like they created a funnel.
That's right. Here's my little blank. A flashing that is not counterflashed is a, Mark?
Fish mouth.
Funnel. Come on. The MSB, also known as cultured stone. Don't call it cultured stone. Cultured stone is a brand name, just like Band-Aid and Kleenex. The MSB, adhered manufactured stone veneer. A stucco really code addresses it as such. Needs to be installed in a drainable manner. Weave screeds are required at the base of the assembly. Weave screeds required at the roof lines. Casing beads are recommended. Double grade D paper minimum, but I would recommend a drain plane. Better, an intentional drain membrane. This brings forgiveness to the assembly. If you don't get everything right, you have a backup that can continue to drain the extra incidental moisture that gets behind it. The MVMA, now the NCMA, has plenty of documentation available. There's no excuse for ignorance here. Rope weeps are not an effective means of draining. I see rope weeps. You don't drain it in a stucco assembly with rope weeps. Adhered stone, we'll keep going. Clearances at roof lines required, not grouted to the shingles, as many times I see. They require a backer rod and sealant joints at transitions with other materials. Do not just butt, tight, and grout. Don't butt tight your windows and grout your windows.
And those joints have to be a certain thickness, because if you just make it a thin line, there's not enough surface area to grab.
Should be a minimum of 3/8 of an inch for a backer rod and sealant joint.
And a maximum as well, correct?
Yeah, there would be. Yeah. But you can get away with 1/2 inch up to even 3/4. But I don't see a need for 3/4. But I like 3/8 to 1/2 for the lines all the way around. MSB can be installed over insulated foam wall sheathings, but foam greater than 1/2 inch in thickness generally requires an engineered fastening system. The roof to wall transitions, also known as kickouts, is a must. A pre-molded kickout flashing is the best way to address this transition, but not the only way. Surface applied flashings at roof line do not meet MVMA guidelines. That's a topic I could really get into. We don't have time. Just keep in mind, surface applied flashings don't work. Outer layer of weather resistant barrier is to block capillary action. This layer is sacrificial. That's in the case of 2 papers that they use behind it. The weather resistant barrier requirement predates the 2000 IRC IBC. Here is one of my cases that I investigated. That's what it looked like when I showed up. A little bit of efflorescence there on the inside.
Wow.
Outside back here, we see the degraded fascia. There's that. What is that? It's a phony kickout. Somebody put it in there hoping it would work. It didn't work. This is in the basement.
That's a funnel.
That is a funnel.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in the office with my moisture meter in the plate line underneath. And wood is considered saturated at 30%.
Wow.
We're at 75.8 right here.
So
this is after a rainstorm and after everything else had dried off. Remember what I said. After everything else is dried off, that remains wet is drying out, not drying off.
it's aging like a castle.
That's right. 47,000 plus attorneys and experts fees. Always easier and cheaper to do it. That's one of the cheaper ones, by the way. Always easier and cheaper to do it from the start. You can see where the kickout damage, the lack of kickout, showed up right here. All this damage. And then we have a little place here where the window was leaking.
You know, like 80, this is that 90% rule. There's a lot of this from a distance that looks right, but essentially that OSB in this case is a sponge.
It is. It turns into vertical mulch as it gets wet.
Dave, you just heard it here. Vertical mulch.
You did.
There's a kick out. This is as it's being repaired. There is the drain plane material. Not only does it have the weather-resistant barrier of Tyvek over it, but it also has a grade D building paper, which you probably don't need if you have the drain plane. You don't need it. But we were being over cautious.
Yeah.
The scratch coat.
Got it.
Scratch coat is supposed to be 1/2 inch nominal thickness. Even in the redo here, these guys don't quite get it.
That is not a 1/2 inch.
No, it's not. All of your lath is supposed to be covered completely. There is the weep screed at the roof, by the way. There's the kick out. This is what it looks like after it's done. Let's inspect one. All these are wrong. Number one, clearance at the hard surface is supposed to be 2 inches unless it's frost protected. Now, it would be frost protected there on the porch, but at the drive pavement, it's not.
Right.
Number two is no backer rod and sealant joint at the vertical trim. Number three, no cap flashing at the trim head above the door. And then number four, no flashing over that top transition to the stone. And then number five, trim lacks 1 inch clearance from concrete. These are all specifications put in by the material manufacturer. We just talked about this.
And it takes no extra time to do that. It takes no extra material besides 4 tubes of copper.
No, it just takes you a little bit of time just to plan and prep for it. But in the long run, you save yourself. Here's the MVMA guidelines. Notice 2 inch at a dry pavement, 4 inches at grade.
So what you could do is carry around with you a 2 inch piece of XPS and put it on the bottom with a sign that says, "Do you got your clearance? Clearance?"
Yeah, you could. That would be something you do in your world. I want to see it. I want pictures. Here's a close-up of the no sealant joint at the dissimilar materials and also no cap flashing, which water will get in there and turn this header into quite the piece of artwork in a little while. You're supposed to have a backer rod and sealant joint around all the windows, minimum of a 1/4 inch, depending on your window. Pella gives you a 3/8. I like the 3/8 gap better. This is a view of the requirement from the MVMA. You can see that there's the sealant right there, 3/8 inch joint. MVMA actually calls for 3/8 inch. No cap flashing at trim head. This will allow moisture pathway behind the trim. Stone not protected by a flashing at the top. Another place for water to get into this assembly. This shows how you're supposed to treat and the assembly. It is to be capped in. The flashing is to be set in a bed of sealant. And notice up here, the trim board should also have a cap flashing over the top. Trim is to be 1 inch clear of the drive. It's got a little bit of clearance, but you'll see this trim wick up moisture. I see it touching the drive a lot of times.
Yep.
There's LP's version, given the instructions of what I just said. Here's an interesting piece. Notice the weather resistant barrier is about 1 inch over the foundation, which it should. And notice the rain screen's about 2 inches over the top of the foundation. And then the stone veneer is stuck tight onto the foundation, damming up that rain screen. The rain screen should go all the way to the base and over the weep screed so it can drain. In bad cases here, when the water gets behind the assembly, it'll all pool and collect down there and can't drain out, and it'll come in under the plate line into the house.
And that's when it gets scary and expensive.
It gets very expensive, yes. Here's one that I drove by and just took a look. I'll show you a close-up here. Now, what's wrong there? The rain screen. It doesn't go all the way down. This is very typical. This rain screen right here should go all the way over and lap
Mark, what climate zone or what weather patterns are we dealing with here?
I'm in a zone 5.
Okay, so there's going to be anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of snow sitting there.
Well, yeah, but I don't, on that particular deal, I don't care about it so much. Here, the detail I'm trying to show here is that this rain screen doesn't come all the way down over the weep screen. And that's going to cause a problem on this house. Headers. Existing assembly is missing one little piece of flashing at the header. This effectively turns the header wrap into a bathtub. When that metal flashing can collect all the water, because it's not flat, that metal coil stock they trim the header with, it turns into a bathtub. This was the only visual evidence of problems right here. And it's not all that visual. Now, this is an LVL, laminated veneer lumbered header. They are hard. The nail gun almost won't drive the nails all the way flush. This is my 12-inch rule. I can stick it up there with ease.
Horizontal mulch.
One piece of proper flashing that's integrated and taped in behind and onto the weather resistant barrier would have spared this. Here's another one. This was built in 2007. Look at that.
Wow.
It's just not flashed right. It collects and pools all the water. This is over at the edge where there's no kick out flashing.
So
Now,
if we spoiled everyone's lunch or snack today, depending on
Not
what
yet.
time you're watching this, that's
Not
on
yet.
purpose.
We're going to keep going. There. The header is drained. A lot of times I see these at the horizontal, they grout them tight. You're supposed to have a weep screed at all horizontal transitions so that it can drain. There's the kick out. It's installed. This is a code requirement. Wow, we're doing pretty good. How are we doing on time?
You got about 15 minutes.
Okay, got a call. Had a flood. Can you help us? Oh, you know that I can. I'll be right over. This is what I saw. Notice the sandbags.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
They're going to
call
make a sand volleyball court?
Yeah. Grade slopes towards the house. I call this a moat. This was a PowerPoint presentation right here for the attorneys that handled the case, and moat was intentionally there to describe what I found. What's that? That's a dam, right? Go around the house a little bit. We can see the backfill is sunk 10 inches.
Yeah.
This house was 9 months old at the time.
Oh,
Now, I'll do a calculation of how much water hit that house.
this is good.
In this little area right here, the 51 by 43,
Okay.
I call it 45 by 51 times 1.6 inches of rain, and divide it 7.48 divided by 12. That's how much water there is per inch. 0.62 gallons per inch of rain. Approximately 2,288 gallons of water headed towards the house just from in that little space. Does not take into account all the water that was coming from everywhere else. Again, remember, the moat, all the water in the moat flowed into this area and breached the dam. Inside the night of the breach in the dam. Look at all this water.
Real.
9-month-old house. Everybody wants a water feature, but I'm going to show you a nice water feature.
Ooh. I grew up
All
with
this water.
problem, by the way.
Okay, take a look at that. That's the window. And see the yellow line there? That's the water out there.
Oh, it's an aquarium.
It is. It's outside. They didn't have time to put fish in it because
Who videotaped this? Your client?
the homeowners.
Oh, I feel bad for these folks.
Yes.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Nothing you can even do about that.
Nope.
I mean, amazingly, they had sandbags. So they
Yeah.
like what if they didn't have sandbags?
We'll watch it again. One time isn't enough.
This is our highlight reel, right?
Yeah.
This is fresh water if you're thirsty out there.
Okay, just a stain. I was called in to look at this house. This is before and after. Those shutters, by the way, were about $800 a piece. Not pair, a piece. Nice shutters.
That was for solar shading, right?
Yes.
They closed those to keep the sun out.
This was the time of discovery.
Look at all
I
those
blur-
people. So
I
they're
blurred
out
all
there to
these
help
people.
you, right? To say,
Well,
I see this, I see
There's
that.
a bunch of engineers, there's a few attorneys there, and a couple clients or a couple of subcontractors that are just listening to my participation. And here's me right here, my finger in front of my lens,
Oh, that's you.
you know. And I present this. I presented it to some engineers and architects, and I blurred out everybody's face. But one guy raised his hand and in the class and said, "Hey, is that Jim so-and-so?" I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "I recognize his butt anywhere." I said, "Oh, no. Now I got to start blurring out butts."
There you go.
here it
Levi's,
is.
you can give Mark his reward for advertising your jeans.
Yes. Just a stain. No kick out. There's the only thing they saw. I'd been in here previously and took some moisture tests. I cut this open. This is 7 foot above grade. Vertical
Wow.
mulch at its finest, and God blessed me with 2. You see what those are, guys?
Earthworms?
Earthworms, 7 foot above grade.
7 foot
Foot.
above grade. So
Yes.
earthworms with wings.
Yes. This is what it looked like once we tore it apart.
Oh, good God.
I'm wrapped up.
No way. That was how many? 150?
That was 150 actual slides, but each slide, it would have been about 200 with each of my readings.
Wow.
Now,
I tell
can
you
find
what, 3
something
more
else
slides
down
and you
here.
got a motion picture.
That's right. That's right.
Hey,
Well,
we did it. It's
So look,
it's 12. It's 12.
no, you did good. You did good. Let's say hello to a couple people in the audience. And there was a question or so out there. Let me get to these real quick. First of all, Peter Molinar says, were the absent materials listed in the building contract, or were they just not considered to be necessary by the builder?
I don't see the contract very often, and when you produce an assembly, you have to go through what the assembly requires. So it requires certain materials, and I don't know that it needs to all be listed out in the contract of all the materials that you're putting in there. It'd be
Right.
good, but I don't see those in. A lot of times those get left on the side.
So with all this water damage, some of those houses were not that old. Where does the liability lie? Does it lie with the general contractor? Does it lie with the architect who drew the plans and maybe left out detail? Or does any of this liability actually fall on the building inspector for not really paying that much attention to make sure it was done right? Who knows? I mean, it could be all three, right?
Well, the buildings inspectors get called in to testify at some points, but it's the inspections, they don't come out and look at everything. There's no weather resistant barrier inspection here. There's
Right.
no window installation inspection. That's all third party. And we have a jurisdiction here locally that is starting to require more third parties.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't, if you look in the first couple pages of the code book, you can't hold them liable. It's very hard to get them drawn in. It belongs on the square on the shoulders of the builder. Even if the designer did it wrong. Now they get all brought in. They get brought in. But the builder is the one who hung his medal around the neck saying, I'm the builder and I know what I'm doing. And in the state of Iowa, it used to be a 15-year statute of repose, meaning if there was damages due to construction defect for 15 years, you could go back after the builder. Now it's 10 years. And that doesn't matter how many people have owned the house. You could theoretically have 9 people have owned the house, and by the 9th year, selling it once a year, and all of a sudden something shows up and it's established that the cause of the problem and the damage was construction defect, then you have to go after the builder's still liable. And you can't go directly after the subcontractors unless you, the homeowner, hired the subcontractors. You have to, your contract is with the builder. So you have to go after the builder. And a lot of times these things end up in lawsuits just to get insurance triggered. Sometimes insurance doesn't trigger until a lawsuit happens.
Right.
So if we follow up on what Dave put on the table and your response, knowing that this is a big problem, right? There's a massive problem here. What is your insightful solution about how we can not journey down this path so that both the contractor, manufacturer, designer, homeowner, next homeowner do not have this sort of waterfall of liability?
I would say knowledgeable people on the job. And I do a lot of third-party inspection as jobs are going. That's one of my offers. And it's funny, I develop a good relationship with the people on the job, and I know they're trying hard, but I might catch something. And at first they're a little bit reticent to have me on the job, but when I start catching little things and I put my hand around them on their shoulder and say, hey, come here, look at this. You know, they get to where they appreciate me catching it. And I'm not going to catch everything, but while I'm out there, if they're walking around with me, I'm showing them what I'm looking for as well. And the more I do that, the more I see these guys grow and their eyes are turned on too. But some of these guys, they got so many things going. It's hard to pay attention to all the little details and spend your time walking around.
So Mark, that gets into Dave's experience and quote unquote soapbox. They produced, I can't tell you how many units, but a boatload of units in the factory setting where you were certainly building a lot of custom, but each of those details were able to be reviewed prior to going down the road. So I tend to, that's not to say that all offsite people go to the degree that some do, but those that do go to that degree, I really think it's an admirable and welcomed path for others to take on.
Well, I tell you what, I started out as a framer, and every once in a while we put a panelized system up, and that was back when panelized systems weren't all that good. And it just insulting, you know, for a panelized system when I'm a framer and I can lay it out and build it. And we did a good job, but as time has gone by, we have less and less talented and skilled people, and it takes longer to stick frame on the job. And in the factory, you get a good panelized system where you have people that are conscientious and really paying attention to the detail. I think that's.
I'll take that a step further, Mark. And when all of us were framing early on, we used 2x4 and maybe an R11 bat. Now we're having 2x6s and 2x8s and all these added layers. So stick framing is not stick framing, and layers is not layers. So the case for panelized is even greater if you are a framer, to have those 2x8s come in and drop them with your skid steer, right? Now you're worrying about your plate details.
Yeah, there's a lot of pluses to panelization and prefabrication, because it's done. You know, that's how we produce our cars in a factory, and it's everything is the same every time. So we don't have near as many problems with our cars as we do with our houses.
Yeah, you can't cut the same 2x6, 2x8, 2x10 exactly the same on site as you do in a controlled environment, such as a manufacturing facility, like the car, conversation as well. And I do think that without the skilled labor to resolve a lot of these problems, we need to do more with less people. And how do we do that? That's going to be offsite construction, whether it's panelized, modular, CLT, whatever the case may be. We can't just keep, bringing in unskilled labor, because that results in a hell of a lot of lawsuits, for people out there, because you got these stick builders that need to build, they need to put food on the table. They can't get to work, but they got to get the jobs done because they got to eat. You kind of get stuck in this crunch of, your morals versus, my family needs fed and my kids need to go to college. And I think that's a problem that's happening right now.
Sure. You got to go fast.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
We could put up more buildings in the fall for dry and ready, right? In less time. And that way your margin and revenue kicks forward and you can work on them through the winter. So Dave, I know we're pressed on time, but Mark, clearly we have to have you back, but there's a discussion that you bring forward, and that has to do with the size of water, right?
Yes.
You bring that up. So can you paint a little picture, Dave? This is amazing the way Mark brings it forward. You might not get this on the first time, folks.
Okay, air moves from warm to cold and from wet to dry. And a lot of the things that we see are with vapors and condensation. And if you were to take your and warm to cold. So in the summer, your vapor drive is inward because you're cooling the inside. In the winter, your vapor drive is outward because it's cold outside, you're warming the inside. Warm air holds more moisture. If you were to take the temperature difference and call each degree in temperature a unit of pressure. I'm not going to call it a pound or an ounce, a unit of pressure. In the summer, you're 90 outside, 70 inside. So you got 20 pounds or 20 units of pressure trying to get in the house. In the winter, you're 70 inside and you're 0 or 20 below outside. So you have 70 to 90 units of pressure trying to escape. And then when it hits a dew point temperature, you're going to store in the wintertime, you're going to store it as frost. So it's going to build up. And then when the sun comes out and shines on that area, it's going to turn into bulk water. And that's a big problem that we see without absolute tight air sealing. We've done several jobs that things weren't tightly sealed, and nor can they be. It's really hard to get these things, the lid, tightly sealed. So all of that's going out. And if it's a non-ventilated roof, there's no hope for that.
Yeah. It's a mulch roof.
It is. Is that the example you wanted me to use? You can't have rain without a cold front. Okay, you can't have rain without a cold front. And so if the cold front is coming in very slow and it's not a very big one, it will give you mist. If it comes in big and bold and hard and it's a steep one, it's going to have a lot of big raindrops, great big raindrops. So every 20-degree drop in temperature is a doubling of the relative humidity.
Bam.
So that's just an easy one. I did this course for some engineers and they said, man, I wish our instructors would have explained it that way because it makes it a lot easier. They understood the concept, but nobody ever paints a nice picture.
I love the idea, Mark, that for 2 weeks in a row, I have not had that much to say because it's so interesting just to actually be listening versus being a host of a show and you explain it in straight English. So, and for those of you out there that don't have any ventilation and you live in one of these areas like Mark's talking about, don't go cut holes in your roof. That's not going to solve your problem. Just putting it out there. I am a certified air barrier boss myself. I went through some good training with SIGA, so I always want to thank those guys for that. Mark, you are amazing. I appreciate all the insight. And if you haven't seen the show that Mark did, is special, you definitely want to watch it. It'll entertain you for a good 20, 30 minutes while you're sitting there doing some work. And the fact of the matter is, you're probably going to see something happening on that show, and you're going to walk by your house and say, damn, I got a problem. Maybe you don't want to know that.
And you can call me. My phone number's right there.
And then you can call Mark. That's right. But he also talks about how to fix these things during the show too. So if you're handy, you might learn something that you can handle yourself as well. But yeah, Mark, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's just do a couple quick shout outs, Mark, just so we can recognize everybody that joined us today. Peter Molinar, we answered his question earlier. George Ryman's joining us from Phoenix, Arizona. What is happening, George? We got Michael Bruce, the best laser digitizer out there, right there. Very good presentation. Greg Ugaldi's joining us from Twitch. We always love it when Greg Ugaldi joins us. You know, if you don't know Greg, he is the past chair of the NAHB. They don't get any taller, bigger, or smarter than that guy when it comes to politics in Washington, D.C. And to boot, he is a builder himself, so he's in the mud every day. We got Greg Laha. Hey, Greg, hello, gentlemen. Good to see you. And Tom Reddy from my beloved city of Pittsburgh. BS Friday is my favorite way to kick off the weekend. And I know, Tom, we have to have lunch here soon enough. We're getting settled in, so we will get to that in the near future as well. Mark? We have, and I put a banner up so everybody knows, next week we got two big shows. First one that we have is Monday. So you want to join us Monday. We're going to have Tata Steel on. They are the largest producer of steel in England and maybe in Europe. We'll learn a little bit more. But guess what? They set up a lab where they are studying the decarbonization of steel. They built a big facility just to do testing and to figure this out, because guess what? Steel is not going away no matter how much we pray or wish. But if we can make it better, this is an opportunity to have that conversation. And Mark, next week, we got Mark Liberté of Construction Instruction on. So you definitely want to put that on your calendar as well. Mark, give us a quick brief on what that is all about.
So we had a double Mark episode today. Next week is a double Mark episode, and I feel bad for Dave for having to deal with more than one Mark. Really, I shouldn't be here, but Mark knows Mark as well, and we probably will not be touching much on his work with construction instruction. Google construction instruction. They're fascinating guys that do great work. What we'll probably do is take you to his own house being built somewhere in Arizona. And if you can imagine someone that analyzes buildings and materials and processes and small details and problems gone awry, creating their own structure, right? The nutball knuckleheads that we are, imagine what he's going to deliver. So I'm looking forward, Dave. And tomorrow, we having coffee?
Ooh, coffee with Dave's hard again tomorrow. But yes, we will be having coffee with Dave at some point. It's not going to be at the scheduled time. It might be super, super early in the morning, because guess what, Mark? I have hockey games starting at 7 a.m. Will I be done by 9, or will you hear me live from the rink? Never know.
Or maybe a surprise, from the rink after, right? Because the girls come first.
That's right. That's right. That's why we moved back into a house, and that's what we're doing. All right, everybody, that is a wrap for today. Mark, awesome show. Love it.
Thank you. See you guys later.
We'll see you soon, Mark. Thank you, Dave.
Appreciate it, Mark. See you, buddy. See you, Mark and Mark. Too many Marks. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.